Hello, I'm Tara Brabazon. I'm the Dean of Graduate Research at Flinders University, and welcome to Vlog 48, Pinterest for Postgraduates and Academics. Now, I've been planning this vlog for quite a while. I've been waiting for the scholarly literature to reach a point of maturity so the vlog would be based on more than sort of commentary, subjectivity and a vibe. And we've now reached that point. But now is the time to present this vlog because I want you to be just ahead of the curve. I want you, when you're dealing with future employers, when you're disseminating your research, I want you to appear modern. And I believe, importantly for academics, Pinterest is the next big thing. But of course, there are some people who disagree with me. For example, my wonderful executive assistant, Dr. Sam Fransway, a big hi to the Sam. Sam said to me over the last few months when I've been developing up research for this vlog, he said to me, Tara, Pinterest, isn't that a chick thing? Now, Sam is actually, or in fact he was, quite accurate. Pinterest was a place where remarkable, astoundingly talented women would share their expertise with craft. So we'd see remarkable work in macrame, in quilting, in crochet, in mosaics. So basically these women were so terrific that the rest of us simply lost the will to live. I started to doubt my capacity to be a proper woman because clearly I couldn't ice cakes properly, I wasn't able to knit or indeed manage felt and a glue gun. Clearly I was a failure as a woman. But Pinterest is changing and has changed radically in the last 6 to 8 months. So what I want to talk about today is an incredibly important and emerging subsection of Pinterest, and that is Pinterest for academics. So let's start with some definitions. I'm going to try and convince you about why you should open an account today and what you should put on that account. So what is Pinterest? Well, it is a web-based mobile application, and the CEO of Pinterest described it as, quote, a catalogue of ideas, end of quote. This is important. So it's not really a social network. Yes, you can connect with others, but it captures ideas. It captures and preserves digital objects. So what makes it special and unusual in web speak is that it is image focused, particularly born digital objects. It allows us to catalogue and maintain those digital objects. Now, Pinterest hit 100 million users in 2015. So this is not a minoritarian web-based pursuit. This is big, this is emerging, and yes, it's growing. So what users do is they pin images that they find in their online searches and save them to pin boards. So that's what's called Pinterest. You are pinning your interests. So what happens is the app embeds a little tiny pin in your web browser, and whenever you're on an interesting bit of the internet that you would like to preserve, you simply click it, bang, and you are able to take that image and save it to a named pin-up board. This means you can organize your visual world, your images, to suit your purposes, right? So it also has a series of very significant and important functions, including the capacity to save and send images via email as well. So that can be important if you're on the road doing a presentation of some kind and you quickly need an image, you can send it to yourself and embed it immediately into a presentation. Very useful. So it's particularly useful, I think, for PowerPoint slides, conference presentations and talks, and we'll talk about that a bit more in a second. So what makes Pinterest, I think, important is any of us who are searching the web can pin an image, so you're able to hold it, store it and claim it. But what makes it significant is you're also able to save with it the website from which it came. So think about this. It's a reference to the image that's carried with that image when you pin it. So how crucial is that for understanding the online environment and references from it? So what we have are Pinterest users and Pinterest boards, pin-up boards, and these are organized by subject. So this is important for academics. I, for example, when I'm thinking about the pin-up board titles, I use it like folders for a web document. So if you think of how you organize your notes and all your Word documents into folders, really the Pinterest boards are the same as Word folders. So boards and users can be followed. So that's the social media element of it. So if you find an interesting person or another interesting board that you'd like to follow on a particular topic, you can do that as well. So that's the social media element of it. But Pinterest is important because it's really the only way in which, in the online environment, we can grasp and claim and store digital objects. So now Pinterest is one of the 4 ways in which people engage with information. So if we're after a general search, we obviously use Google. If we want a live or real-time search, we use Twitter. If we're looking for people, we use Facebook. But if you're looking for digital objects, you're going to use Pinterest. So this is not a minor part of the online environment. So for example, there are 750 million pins. 750 million pins. This is huge. And the other important bit that makes Pinterest distinct is that 75% of the traffic comes from mobile devices. So those of you that are interested in teaching and learning, and particularly M-learning, mobile learning, Pinterest is at a point now where we can no longer ignore it. So this is an object-driven site. And what I'm going to do now, from that very basic introduction, is give you the 5 uses for Pinterest right now in your life. So you as a scholar, you as an academic, how can you use this today, now, with the Pinterest site right today? Let's get into it. So the first way in which I think academics can use Pinterest is to assemble pin-up boards around keywords of your thesis. So what I would advise is pick the 5 key keywords or ideas or concepts in your thesis and the 5 key scholars in your thesis, and name boards after each of those ideas and each of those scholars. And once a week, spend 15 minutes and do a search through Google and Google Scholar for those 5 ideas and those 5 scholars. You'll find articles, you'll find tweets, you'll find real-time changes in research. Also, I find particularly for book reviews, for literature reviews and systematic reviews, Pinterest is fantastic because it allows you to organize the sections of your literature review. So for example, have a Pinterest board for each of the sections of your literature review. The other variable which I would recommend, if I was doing my PhD right now, I would have a Pinterest board for each of my chapters. So as you find something in real time, or a friend of yours, for example, sends you a link via Facebook, for example, or Twitter, you're able to save that for future use. So you've got the reference and you've got the image. Incredibly important. So this means that you start to deal with the web in a much more organic way that's dealing with refereed and unrefereed sources, and the mix in your bibliography adds a lot of spice and juice. And as an examiner, I'm quite interested now in finding a diversity of sources in students' bibliography. One other variable you might like to consider is a lot of academics like me are also now on Pinterest. So if you've got fantastic scholars that you're really interested in, you can follow them and follow their boards. So that could also be important for you. Right, so that's one reason to get onto Pinterest today. What's the second one? Well, popular cultural source material. Now it breaks my heart really. You know, I left for Australia, I left for England from Australia 15 years ago, and when I left, popular cultural studies was really big in Australia. Lots and lots of students were doing work on popular culture. These days, and tragically, that's simply not the case. So I hope that that comes back, that iteration of fantastic popular cultural scholars in Australia comes back. But there is no doubt, if the focus of your thesis is popular culture, then this is the place to collate and collect your information. It is amazing. If you're working on popular culture now, this is the way to organise your material. But whatever your thesis, whether it be from the hard sciences through to the high humanities, the popular cultural material for your thesis is best organised on Pinterest. So a big hi to all our crew working in environmental science, climate change. There's a lot of you out there, team. Obviously, you've got a huge amount of popular cultural material that's emerging on a daily basis. So the popular cultural arm of your work, the media commentary stuff, is really well captured on Pinterest. Now, I do work in popular culture, popular music, popular memory. This is what I do with my day. So the material that I work with through popular memory, through popular culture, is captured through my boards. And it's an incredible way. I've been writing with this method for the last year, and I found it incredibly quick and easy to take a whole series of what could be quite ephemeral texts and capture them in real time for future publications. Brilliant. 3. What's the third reason you should get on Pinterest today? Well, motivational material. Now, most of you know I'm not really a new age person or a hippie or sort of a bit Oprah-fied. I'm not really that person. But there's no doubt that Pinterest does have incredible range of motivational materials. So if you're one of those people that seeing positive images and positive phrases makes you feel better about yourself, then Pinterest is a great place to find that material. So in Pinterest, just do a simple search for inspiration, and you'll find all these great materials that actually do make you feel better about yourself. Now, I'm abusing this a little bit because it's like, oh, it's a bit self-help, it's a bit new agey for me. Having said that, on Pinterest, I have a board that's called Balance, and it has that sort of inspirational material for me. So when I'm having a bad day, or when you're having a bad day, you can go to that Pinterest board and sort of feel a bit better. So it does make a difference, and look, it is motivational material, and if you're not motivated, you're not going to finish your PhD. So it might be useful to you. Okay, so that's 3. 4, biggie, huge, the use of Pinterest in your teaching. Right, so I think Pinterest will transform teaching and learning, to be honest with you. I think we're on the cusp of that transformation. But let's just start with the basic stuff. All of us, when we are teaching, we are doing a delivery, a live delivery, have PowerPoint presentations, yep? And so what I've always said to you is never, ever, ever speak what's on a PowerPoint slide. Your PowerPoint slides should be visually heavy. They should actually be a visual wash behind what you are saying. So, for example, you never speak what's on the slides, you simply speak ahead of the slides, and that's the visual wash. So Pinterest is incredibly useful for sourcing the visual materials that you will use in teaching and learning. It is unbelievable for sourcing slides. I cannot tell you how much time I've saved by having Pinterest boards on topics, and simply when I need slides, they're all sitting there. It is remarkable, like a database. So when you're delivering, or you know you're going to be delivering a particular subject or course in the future, and these days you get about 6 weeks, 2 months notice that you're doing that, you can start to gather up material online and save it to Pinterest boards. Incredibly useful and will save you time. And also we do need to model behavior for our students. And as I've talked about, one of the great things about Pinterest is you grab the image, but the reference for the image is carried within it. So when you're doing your slide, you can actually put in the reference where you got the image. Remember, you can't just nick images, just like you wouldn't just nick a phrase or nick a sentence. That's plagiarism. It's plagiarism when you do it visually as well. So put those references in. Can I say Pinterest is also incredible in creating reading lists. So you're able to pin key videos, key images, key articles to a particular board. So say I was teaching Introduction to Communication. I could have Introduction to Communication board week 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 12, and save all the materials in those boards. And why that's so useful. Remember what I said early on? What makes Pinterest interesting is 75% of the traffic is via mobile devices. So while our learning management systems are not handling the mobile phone terribly well, or small tablets, Pinterest is. So it's a way for your students, particularly if you're dealing with students who are part-time or commuting, they can use the mobile device to engage with those materials. So do think about Pinterest for teaching and learning, because I do believe that that is going to be big. So 5. The 5th reason I think you should get Pinterest today is actually the most important. And the 5th reason is create a named board. This is the most important tip. So what I'm suggesting is create a pin-up board, a Pinterest board named after yourself. So the Tara Brabazon board, the Marie Meredith board, the Mike Tyrrell board, call it after yourself. And on that Pinterest board, I want you to save every single mention in the press, every article that you've ever produced. If you do a podcast, if you do a vlog, save everything to that board. So Michelle, I was thinking about this particularly for you. Do you remember when you did that great conference last year and you got pictures with the keynote speaker and all sorts of publicity for your research? Well, for me, Michelle, you need a Pinterest board and save all of that born digital rich material. Save those digital objects. You can then link that to your CV and people can see your work. So while I think Pinterest was known for its pictures of kittens and its pictures of cupcakes, it is now transforming. It can be and should be used for research, sharing opportunities. So if you name a board after yourself, then every single mention of you in Google and Google Scholar can be saved somewhere. So then your followers, the followers of that board, can always find and locate your most recent research. And of course then Google will pick up the board when people search for you via Google. Back it comes. So you start to control the first page of your Google returns. Now, why all of this matters is that we live right now in a visual age. And Pinterest really does embody that visuality. So yes, Pinterest is used for a series of hobbies, and that's great, and that's important, and that's wonderful. Leisure is great, but it can also be used powerfully for work and capturing our digital research. So even if you just today have one board named after yourself that captures all your research and the way in which it's discussed in the press, then that is a strong use of Pinterest. But it does offer a way, I think, for us all to track our online research and be at the start, if you will, of something that is going to be transformative, I think, for how we think about research dissemination. So this vlog this week is ahead of the curve. We're presenting a series of ideas to you and for you that will allow you to be ahead of most academics. So as always, please contact me, let me know how you feel about this. If you need any assistance with Pinterest for you and your particular circumstances, please get in touch with me. But in a visual age, we can no longer deny the greatest and most important visual source for information online, and that is Pinterest. As always, I wish you love, light, and peace. Tea out.